Welcome to this week's edition of Pit Stop. I'm joined by Mark Jones and by Charl Bosch. This week we will look at a lot of things happening around GWM Haval Jolion. I'll try and break it down and explain it as easy as I can. Obviously, Haval Jolion being a very popular, one of the most popular bar, the Cherry Tiggo 4 Pro, which it isn't really a direct rival of, but as in terms of popular Chinese SUVs in South Africa, it's the second most popular one, and obviously, what I mean by that is best-selling one. So now, obviously, Haval has come on and said, we're bringing in a new Jolion. We're going to call that the Pro. We're going to keep the old one. We're going to call that the City. Not the first time we've seen this in the automotive world. Think of the Polo Vivo. Think of the Corolla Quest. Ford Figo. Yeah. Think of all of those. What's key here, Charl, is the price. So in other words, the City, which is basically the old Haval Jolion, Haval Jolion City, is now slightly more affordable than the Pro, which is slightly more modern. It's got to be a winning recipe.
It has to be a winning recipe. They've been very, very clever about it. The two vehicles are in a manner not really related. So the Pro is based on a car called, I'm rather going to spell it, so I'm not going to pronounce it. It is CHITU is how you pronounce it. Make what you want of that. It's called, it means red rabbit in Chinese, in Mandarin.
Beautiful translation.
Yeah, beautiful, indeed, beautiful. So, two copies, the Pro, or the City, the now renamed City, that is still, as you mentioned, the Haval Jolion as we know it, whereas the Pro is a bit upmarket, but it's a bit different. But because of the Haval Jolion name, because of the prominence of the name, they decided what to call it Jolion Pro. So they have cut the City's range down a little bit, all the hybrids and the S sporting model exactly. And I think it's a win-win because the now renamed City has been, in its original Jolion guise, has been a runaway success, as you mentioned. So we've seen what happened with Polo Vivo and normal Polo. We've seen what happened with Corolla Quest. They've onto something, definitely. They've added a tiny little bit more kit to the car, given it a Pro-inspired facelift look, but kept the 1.5 turbocharged petrol engine and connected to a manual or to a dual clutch transmission. So, yeah, definitely a winner.
So, Mark, anybody who walks into a dealership who's new to the Haval brand, and obviously price is a big motivating factor, there's a City for him. Anybody with a current Haval Jolion or call it City, they can upsell him to a Pro. And anybody, obviously, Pro also slotting in below the H6 still, they can upsell Pro clients to the H6. I mean, they've sort of got all bases covered here.
No, they have. I mean, again, very important segment. We've discussed it all the time. I mean, it's where you want to play. You want a lot of product. Cherry has Tigos upon Tigos upon Tigos. Everybody's trying to play there, and the Chinese are sort of going in hard. So you do. Guy walks in. You got a wide range of cars to offer. You can upsell, you can discount and trade him out of this and put him in that. I'm just not convinced that, like let's use City Golf to Golf. It was 100% an old platform car that ran for many years, like the Quest, and then got replaced by an all-new model. And there was quite a vast difference between old and new. I see what they're doing, and it's clever. It makes that offer. I just wonder, is it not a problem of them recycling their cars so fast that they're sitting on the Cities, and now they've got the Pros, and the Cities are still around. I mean, I don't believe, and that's what I'm trying to get at, is a year or two from now, if that long, they're going to have Cities still being sold as a long-term thing. I don't see the City, for argument's sake, sitting around for the next 2-3 years being this entry-level car and the Pro elevating like the success of the City Golfs and the Conquests and the Corollas. So I think theirs is just more a case of they roll out products so fast that it's presented a beautiful opportunity for them. But I believe a year from now you won't see Cities. You'll see Pro, and in 18 months there'll be a Pro Plus, and it'll change again.
Absolutely.
But it works. It's going to sell like hotcakes.
As long as the pro doesn't turn back to amateur, I mean, it's all good.
Well, you never know these days.
Yeah.
So, Charl, just speaking of the brand in general, GWM, obviously Great Wall Motors. The up until now, before the split, the Haval Jolion, there hasn't been any GWM branding on the car. It's just been marketed under Haval. What's going on now? GWM is back. It's on the tailgate, not the front.
Yeah.
Front says Haval on the grill, but the tailgate of both the City and the Pro says GWM. What's up with it?
I think what they're trying to do is they've restructured themselves. I mean, we were at that event in February where they were
Showcased for the year.
where they were showcasing their new products and then realigning themselves. So in Australia, which is another big market for them, the cars there are called GWM Haval. It's not a split as it is here.
So it's always been GWM.
It's always
Haval
been,
there.
yeah. If you buy, if you go into a GWM dealership and you say, I want a Haval Jolion, they'll probably say, oh, do you want a GWM Haval, or Haval as they call it, which irritates me a lot. But what I think they are implementing the same strategy, because I think they've realized, and we've spoken about this a couple of months ago, is that the Chinese, they love to create new brands. They love to create a sub-brand and another sub-brand and another sub-brand, and eventually people get confused. Haval has it. You've got GWM, you've got Haval, you've got Aura, you've got P Series, or as the buttons.
Tank. They're trying to put it on its own platform,
Way, which is their very, very, very upscale division. And I think what they've realized is, let's stop here for a minute. People are getting confused about it. Rather, as part of the alignment, rather fuse the two together, because Haval was marketed as an upscale brand from GWM, similar to what Lexus is to Toyota. Then there was, as you said, the Tank, off-road division, P Series and Aura. So I think it's just rather realign the two. So it will cause a little bit of confusion eventually, as Jaco said, because there's now GWM written prominently on the tailgate and Haval written on the grill. So it's just part of their restructuring, just to make things a bit simplify it and not make people confused, is the whole thing. Because then it's going to cause people saying, but I want that, but I want that. What's the difference here? So start from scratch, realigning, and I think what they did was very, very clever, instead of just rolling out another sub-brand on another sub-brand.
So it's quite funny you say that, because we've discussed this. It's like Cherry's gone the opposite.
Yeah.
You have Cherry, and then obviously we're not going to speak overseas what they've got there, because then we're going to get really confused.
Yeah.
Just now, in South African terms, Cherry started, obviously came back into the country, and then they rolled out the Amoda, then the Jaco, and now, which we didn't think is going to happen, is the Jetour also coming in. We've spoken about this, and I mean, if you walk, like Cherry has split up their dealerships into Cherry and then O&J, which is Amoda and Jaco. We're yet to see where the new J is going to fit into the O&J or the...
They're going to be independent. Jetour is going to be completely independent, from what we understand.
So now, walking into a dealership, Mark, and it's a GWM, and you've got a Tank there, and you have a Jolion there and an H6 there, compared to you walk into a dealership with Cherry on, there's a Tiggo there, but across the road there's an O&J with a C5. You think Cherry is probably on a course to also simplify themselves down the line, or...?
I don't think so. I think they've done the opposite. I think that was when we were in China recently, one of the disconnects is the dealerships now need to have like their own sort of CR going on. And they're very unhappy, because now you've got Cherry, which is Tiggo, and now you've got to have an O&J dealership completely different, and that's infrastructure. But guys want to come in and buy whatever. But the problem is, those brands are not quite the same. But if you've got 600,000 rand, that's your limit. You shop in that league. So whether you looking at a Tiggo or an Amoda or a Jaco, it's as confusing as heck. I don't know how they keep doing this. Now you've got this two dealerships. They both have to sell numbers. Well, you had one infrastructure, now you've got two, and they're competing for the same piece of the pie. So now where they were selling 500 of one car, this guy wants his 500 and this guy wants his 500, and the guy's going, but same price. GWM, I think, are backtracking, because even if I think of it, GWM to me is the original Bucky brand.
Yeah.
It's the agricultural brand, and we got kind of used to Haval, and we thought, right, that's cool. And then P Series came along. I mean, if you go and poll some people outside, you go, what's a P Series? I'm not sure if they know it's an Haval, or is it a GWM, or is it a P Series, or is it and then you got tanks. So, yeah, they've confused us terribly, but at least I think Haval GWM is trying to recover and trade under the GWM gravitas of the brand. And I think Cherry's doing a little bit of the opposite, because all our discussions with them half the time is, please don't say it's a Cherry Amoda or it's a Cherry this. Please, they try and distance themselves from the big brand, because the brand underneath's got so many levels. It's
If you, I mean, let's take it. I know that we're going to hate me for saying this, but if you look at something called like the J7, it's sold as a Cherry in China. It's called the Tanzo 05 or something. That is, and we've also seen Omodas when we were there with Cherry badging. It's called the Cherry Omoda. When it was originally shown, it was called the Cherry Omoda 5, and I think what GWM has also recognized is South Africans don't like to be confused. Tank, for instance, is a brand on its own in China. Aura is a brand on its own. And to put everything under the GWM umbrella, as you mentioned, and as what they do in Australia, it just makes it more simple. The South African buyer doesn't like to be confused. When he wants, for example, when he wants to go into a Toyota dealership, he buys a Hilux. He doesn't want some badge engineered, or not badge engineered, but he wants a Hilux. He doesn't want something else.
Yeah.
So, I know it's a horrible example, but it's all about simplicity and how things are going. If it's confusing,
and cost to run these dealerships. These are mega multi-million rand dealerships. Numbers have dropped again. I mean, we trying to sort our parliament out, and I mean, you saw the swearing in of parliament. You thought you were spelling words quite interestingly. I mean, I was watching some of that yesterday. It was hilarious, but I mean, sad but true. But is the cost? You know, you got one dealer principal, have a parts department. I agree. Walk in. I know it's a different product, but man, you can have a tank here, and you can have an Aura here, and you can have an Haval here, and a P Series. At least the guy walks into one place. It's one set of infrastructure. For me as a businessman, that would make sense. This buying or renting of multiple dealerships and multiple product, it doesn't work in Europe. And they have small dealerships because they don't have the space we do. I hope somebody's catching a wake up, because, and it just keeps coming. I mean, we got JAC, we've got LDV, we've got, who else is coming? Your Photon.
Photon.
So it's just going to get more and more muddied. I really hope that the established guys catch a wake up and actually realize this and make life easier.
Yep.
Yeah, well, GWM does pride themselves as the longest standing Chinese manufacturer in South Africa. Well, if it's taken that long for them to go back to GWM, we applaud them for that, taking any confusion out. We should be getting, hopefully, those Cities and Pros Jolions on test down the line, and then we'll bring you up to speed. Maybe take the S or the HEV to Gerotech, and we'll tell you all about it. But up until then, thanks for listening to this week's edition of Pit Stop. If you liked it, please go like this podcast. You can also share it, or decide even to follow us, our YouTube channel, and then get up to speed every week. Thank you for listening. I'm Jaco van der Merwe. I was joined by Mark Jones, Charl Bosch. See you next week.